before I get into the illustration, I just wanted to go ahead and just kind of show you exactly what I was talking about when I talk about the equipment. So the two main pieces of equipment that you're going to need and able to pull off the Penn rig system is going to be the anchor rod. And what I've got here is I have got my 12-foot heavy rod. Now this is a custom built rod. A buddy of mine named Chris Hodge down in Wilmington, North Carolina builds rods, and he built me this one. I don't remember what I paid for it, but it was north of 500 bucks. This stuff can get expensive. You can get one like a Penn Battalion or a Prevail, or even just a second-hand one, 50 bucks, 100 bucks. It just all depends on your budget. So this is my 12-foot rod, and I can't get the whole thing in the screen, but this has got the anchor. Okay, this is what we're going to cast out as far as we can get it. And when we bend that up, like I showed you in the last video, it's going to anchor to the ground, and it's going to create a tight zip line. And on this one, I've got a custom built Penn Fathom 2 from Reel Custom Reels, and I'll post a link down in there if you guys want to. This is like a high-speed reel that's even out of my league. I have a hard time throwing it because it's so fast. It's got the ceramic bearings and it's real high speed, and it was built for competition casting. Yes, they do have competition casting, and it is like a golf swing. I'm telling you, it's hard. I still ain't there yet, but I practice. So this is a 15. No, this is a 12. Yeah, this is the 12. Before this, I was running the Penn Squall 15. A lot of guys use 12s, but this is the type of casting reel you're going to want. Again, you can use a spinning rod, okay, if you prefer. I know guys that throw them out there further than I can with this, with a Penn Prevail spinning rod, and that guy's like 15 years old. You know who I'm talking about. I'm not going to mention your name because you're underage and I ain't got your daddy's permission. But, all right. So this is my fighting rod. Now this one, again, this is a, oh, by the way, that 12-foot heavy rod, that's built on a Rod Geeks blank, okay, with all Alps guides. I don't know if it's top of the line, but it's getting up there. Okay, so this is my fighting reel. Now this is a 7-foot heavy. Let me see. I'll read the nomenclature here if I got it on here. Nope, I don't think we put it on there. Anyway, it's a heavy reel. It's a heavy rod with about medium fast action, and this has got all the Fuji guides and what have you. That's not the important part. And I know in the first video I said a 60-aught or bigger. I misspoke. You know, I started off with a 60. Now I'm running the Penn Squall 40. Okay, so you get just fine with this. It holds a lot of line, and again, I've got 30-pound mono on this one, and on this one, let me just go back to it so you can see what I'm talking about. Oh, okay. If you notice, I've got green line. I think that's I got Diamond Momoy or High Catch on there. I can't remember. But if you notice, the line I got here is clear. I've got a shock leader tied onto this, and basically what that is on that 20-pound mono, I've got about, I don't know, probably about 30 feet, maybe 20 feet of 50-pound just clear mono, okay? And what you do is you tie that to your anchor, and I'm not going to get into knots because that gets real complicated, and there's 1,000 different knots out there. I'm just using a fisherman's knot on this right here. It's a pretty good knot. It holds. And what you do is when you tie your shock leader on there, you reel it in until you get about 3 wraps around your reel, and then that's it. That's all you want. And then, of course, you want it to be your anchor to fall about where your anchor, your reel is. Okay, so there you go. Okay, moving right along here. On my fighting reel rod here, I have got a swivel, and that's got to be replaced. See, I was telling you earlier, don't use a shiny one, because fish like Spanish mackerel and bluefish, they're attracted to things shiny, especially Spanish mackerel, and they'll attack that, and they might hit your line. But this is actually going to be suspended in the air, so it doesn't really matter. So what's going to happen is I'm going to take that pop off, and I'm going to simulate this in the pool. I'm going to try anyway, and then I'm going to draw it all out with stick figures. This is the pop off, our demonstration. Now typically these will have weights on them. Okay, so along with running those beads on there, you're going to slip a sinker weight, an egg weight of 4, 6, 3, 1. It just all depends on the conditions. If you got a lot of wind, you want heavier weight. If you don't have a lot of wind, then you can get away with just, 1. And keep this in mind: the lighter the weight, the further you can send it out there, because the less it's going to dip that zip line, your anchor line. I'm going to try not to hit my microphone here. Okay, so I'm taking this and I am going to stick it through just like that. Okay, and now this is going to hook to the zip line, and you see down here we got our fish dangling. So like I demonstrated before, when that fish comes up and grabs the bait, this is going to zip on down the line, and our fish is going to be running from here. And then you'll hear it, and the idea is you're sitting there chilling, you're not chilling. You think you're going to be chilling, but really what you're doing is you're you're catching bait. Okay, you're staying busy, you're checking, make sure and then all of a sudden you hear, and it screams. Okay, that's actually not a very good demonstration of what it sounds like, because when it takes off, it's like, and it just keeps going, and you're going to know you got a fish on, and then you can go and man your rod. So I'm going to get into a demonstration here with the pool, and then I'm going to move to the whiteboard. Okay, what I've got set up here, and I hope it's not too windy for the microphone, but what I've got set up here is a simulation, okay? Now, one thing I have not covered is how you're going to attach this to the pier. I will go over, or the bridge, I will go over that in the whiteboard illustration, and then when we go out to the pier and set everything up and actually do this in real time. So I hope you can see that. But basically what I've got here is I've got my 12-foot anchor rod, and I've pretended that I've just casted this thing out and let the anchor set, and now it's tight in the ground, and I've tightened it up, and I've got a nice tight line. That ain't going nowhere, okay? So this is my line. It's, like I said, let's just assume it's 200 yards out there, which for me, if I'm actually throwing it, it's going to be about 110, 120 on a good day, okay? And then I've got my fighting rod right here, just laid up against some chairs right now, just for simulation effect. So what you're going to do is, once you've got your fish, okay, your bait fish, like I said, it could be a blue fish. I know a guy, my buddy Kenny, all he does is use pinfish and he catches fish. It just really all depends. I know guys that sometimes for shits and giggles run lizard fish, trash fish. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to simulate the fish with a 3-ounce weight, okay, so we can get a slide effect. Like, again, typically these have weights on them. I don't have a weight on it. I just mocked this up, and when we get out to the pier, depending on the conditions, you'll be able to see. So again, we are going to take those 2 wires. Let me see if I can get some slack here so I can go closer. We're going to take the 2 pop-off wires, and we're going to put it through the top part of our swivel. Okay, like so. See that? Now my 3-ounce weight is just down here hanging, and there we go. And my simulation pop-off, let me turn against the wind here, is a little weak because I didn't use a 60-pound wire, but it's holding. Okay, here we go. You find you don't have to find it, you'll know where it's at. You take this is your anchor line, and you take that barrel snap swivel and you put it right over top of it, okay? And now you've got your fish just dangling here, which is our weight for simulation purposes, okay? Now you just simply let it go, okay? And as you let it go, it will slide out. So I'm going to move the camera here, and I know this is going to be a little janky because I'm not a professional, nor do I have a crew. But do you see the system there? This is your zip line. There's your snap swivel. Okay, I've seen guys use like shower curtain rings and just anything. I mean, you can get creative with it. And then your wire pop off is holding what we're going to call a fish at a 3-ounce weight. Okay, so I'm going to set this down, and I'm going to attempt to do this live. There we go. Okay. So now, obviously, if we want this thing to go out, we got to create some space between the ground and the tip of the fighting rod. So typically what you're going to use, now some piers already have PVC pipes if they allow kingfishing. the pier that I fish at Johnny Mercer's Pier typically does not have, it's a concrete pier, really nice pier. They don't have presets, so you have to bring your own PVC pipe, and you can strap that to the pier, or you can use a board setup, which I'll show you as we go along. But basically, you're going to put a PVC pipe, and you don't want that PVC pipe to be too tall, maybe 3.5, 4 feet, because remember, you got a 12-foot rod, and it's got about 4 feet of rod and the butt part. So when you're pulling it out, you don't want to be, and I've done that. I screwed up the first time. I had like a 6-foot, PVC pipe, and I couldn't get my rod out. So about 3.5 feet is really all you're going to need. All right. So now that you got everything set up, we're going to go ahead and we're going to pretend like we're setting our anchor rod into the PVC pipe. And that's about as high as I'm going to get it, and we're still there. And then take your clicker off, open up your bail, and then just slowly let it out. Okay? Slowly let it out. And what'll happen is, in real conditions, this will slide. I'm going to go off camera here for a second just so I can get it out above the pool. Okay, I've let it out. I've let it out as far as I want it to go. So I'm going to set my rod and my fighting rod anchor, which again, I'll go over. I'll let some more out so I can get some slide action going. Okay. It'll all make sense. All right. And I just need to create some lift here. And you'll see guys a lot of times shaking that rod. It'll be in the PVC pipe, and you'll see that they're shaking it, and you wonder, what the hell are they doing? They are getting that pop off to slide. And let me see if I can get it down here. Are we in picture here? Can you see that out there? Probably not. I should have put something. Oh, there it is, right there. You see that? And that's going to hang right there. Now, that in real life, in a real situation, in fishing conditions, is your fish. And what he's going to do, he's going to hang off of that rig there, and he's going to swim in a circle, alive, just happy to be a fish swimming in America. And until a kingfish or a barracuda or whatever you're targeting, depending on what bait you're using, is going to come by and snatch it. And when he does that, that's the magic. That's the whole purpose in this setup. Because when he comes by and wants to eat your bait, boom. And look, this thing with some weight on it is just going to get sent on down the line, out of the way. And now we are, oh, yep, that would happen. And now we're fighting a fish. So when he comes by and grabs it, you'll hear that, except it'll keep running, especially if a kingfish. He grabs it, and that's when everybody goes to work. Everybody jumps up from their nap. Yeah, that's what it'll sound like. You'll hear that. Everybody jumps. And sometimes, so here's the little tip. If you're ever out on the pier fishing with one of these reels and you're not kingfishing, and there are people kingfishing, turn the clicker off of your rod. Because when you're sitting there having a good time with your family, drinking a beer, enjoying your day off, and there's 10 guys napping, they're all on edge waiting for that to go off, and you go reeling in your little fish, and everybody jumps up and runs to their rod, and then the dude you're fishing down there wondering why everybody's pissed at you. Some guys will say something, but generally most people are polite and they're not going to say nothing. So just always keep your clicker off when you're fighting a fish. Only have your clicker on when you need it as an alarm system. So there's a little tip that'll keep you out of some trouble and make you some friends. So there we go. We got our fish. Now I've got to my rod. I go ahead and take it. I turn my clicker off, and then I go ahead and I set my drag to whatever it is, depending on the size of the fish, and then I fight it. And at this point, it's a group effort, really. You can do it by yourself, because just think about it, you got a 30-pound fish on the end of this and you're 18 feet up in the air on a pier. How are you going to get it up? That's where the gaff comes in. It's a piece of equipment that a lot of people don't bring, but usually there's a guy out there, and you got to really trust him to get, because when you get that fish to the bottom of the pier, you're going to be holding it, and he's going to send the gaff down there and hook it and bring it up. So he gets as much credit, because I've seen, it happens. It happens. I've seen guys get mad at their gaff man because they had a big fish. Hey man, it's fishing. It's like hunting. It's like surfing. No two fish are the same. No two waves are the same. And no two deer hunts are the same. So I hope this brings it into clarity for you. And if it hasn't, we will when I get to the whiteboard. Stay tuned. Okay. This is about as high speed as I can get here. Like I said, I'm not a professional. I don't have a crew. And I think that you can probably see my reflection in there. But let's go ahead and take a look at this drawing. The way I've got it set up, I think it's kind of self-explanatory, but that may just be to me, so I will go over it just for the sake of not being confused. Of course, this is your ocean. This is your body of water, whether it be an ocean or a river, whatever. This is your pier or structure. It could be a pier, it could be a bridge, okay, but over salt water where you want to target your fish. This green thing right here, that's your PVC pipe. Now that's going to be a 2-inch pipe at about 3.5 to 5 feet tall, just preference. Don't go taller than that, like I explained in the last video. And those red lines on it, those are the ratchet straps that are holding that thing to the pier. Okay, right here we've got our 12-foot heavy rod, and sticking out the pier here with no line on it is our 6 to 8 foot heavy fighting rod, and they are, this one's strapped to the pier, and this one, they do have devices. There's 100 different devices to keep that rod in place. Some guys just lean the pole right up against the side of the pier. Okay, that's just going to be personal preference. All right, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to use green for my fighting rod line here. Okay, so like I explained before, we are going to take the king rig has got a swivel on it, and we're going to put those 2 wires through the swivel, so it's now hanging off that little hanger contraption. Okay, and that's your line hanging down, and this is going to be our bait fish. Smiling, because of course he's happy to be bait for our food. Okay, so all right, so now you've got that hooked up. And you'll figure out the best way for you to do that, because you're figuring, how the hell am I going to hook that up when it's 12 feet, 15 feet in the air? Well, obviously, before you put it up, you'll wrap that line around a pole, and then you'll let it up. But you'll figure all that out. I just want to give you the basics of how it's going to be set up. That's how it's going to look right there. Once you let your bait go, and you've got the reel on your fighting rod locked. Okay, so what you're going to do now is you're going to unlock that reel and making sure that you control it, because you don't want it to, if you know a spinning reel, a casting reel. And then once it's out, you're going to slowly let the line down, and it's going to slide out. It's going to slide out. Now we're going to assume this is about 150 yards. The fighting line, okay? And you look down here, I've got the anchor set in the ground, so that line is tight. And there's a slight curve in the top of our anchor rod, okay? So once you decide where you're going to, now you can fish him. You can let the slack out on that line, and you can fish him right next to the pier, or you can slide him all the way out 150 yards, or you can go, so we're going to say about halfway, 70 yards, 75 yards here. Okay, so I'm going to do my best because I'm drawing like that. Okay, so that's where we're going to stop our pop off. Okay, this line will now become, let me see if I can erase that. Oop, don't fall. This line will now be straight out to here, and then hanging down in the water is going to be our bait fish. Okay, and he's basically going to swim as far as that leader line is. Now you can make it 10 feet, 8 feet, 4 feet, but he's pretty much going to swim in a circle. Okay, and if you get him right on top of the water, he'll start freaking out, and he'll start flapping and making a big stink, and then hopefully the goal is you come down here, and Mr. Kingfish or Mr. Cobia fish, or whatever fish that looks like to you, spots them, okay? And then he's going to go up, and he's going to eat them, and he's going to get hooks set all up in his teeth. And when that happens, that happens, this is all eliminated now, and we are now fighting the big fish down here on this rod only, and this one has pretty much just been eliminated. It is, like I said, I think it's pretty obvious now, that is just a mechanism for holding the bait in place for your big predator fish to come down and grab it, and hopefully you land a big 40-pound fish. Now, the next trick becomes how to get that sucker up on the pier, because you obviously cannot reel that thing all the way up. Your line will snap. Okay, so hopefully everything in your rigging system is held up. Your king rig is holding, your line hasn't snapped, you had your drag set perfectly, and you were able to pull that fish in tired and dead. Maybe not dead, but just stunned and just wore out, so he's not thrashing around the bottom of the pier. You then got to hold him right there, right? And you got to send down, you got to get your buddy, and he's got to send down a gaff and hook that fish and bring it up, or net. If you don't want to kill the fish, if it's a catch and release, such as a tarpon or a shark or something like that, that you're not going to eat, you're not going to kill it, then you're either going to put it in a net, and if he's too big for that, you're going to walk his butt all the way down the pier, and you're going to beach him. You're going to take your picture, and you'll let him go. But in the case of a kingfish, barracuda, where you're going to eat them, or just any big fish that you want to eat, you send down this gaff. It's just a big treble hook, okay? And most guys will have one on the pier, and a lot of piers have them available for anybody kingfishing. So it's not something that you have to have, and I do recommend, until you get comfortable with that gaff, don't try to gaff somebody's fish, because it's actually a sweet science. It does look as easy, and sometimes it is as easy as just sending that thing down and getting a fish, but that thing is spinning around and the wind's blowing, and you accidentally hook onto somebody's hooks and pull it out of their mouth, and you don't know that guy, he might be pretty pissed at you, and you just lost a friend. Hell, I've seen friends get mad at each other. It's just how it is. You know how it is if you're a fisher or a hunter or a surfer, and you miss something that you really want to go for. It causes a lot of emotion. So I recommend you leave this to the guys until you practice. And a good way to practice that is when you're not fishing and you have a gaff and you see those jelly balls floating by, gaff those. Well, all right, that about sums it up. I hope that gives you a clear picture of what you need to do to accomplish the task of catching big game off of a pier. The last thing I want to cover is etiquette. Okay, keep in mind, if you've never done it before, you're going to a new pier, even if you've done it before or whatever, you've been around piers, you kind of know what I'm talking about. But if you don't, just keep in mind, when you go out there and there's people out there, the chances are the people out there, they fish there all the time. They have thousands of hours and thousands of dollars tied up in this lifestyle. Okay, while you are free to go out and do what you want, you can go set up and you can handle your business, I advise you to kind of approach it with care. Okay, be a little tender about it. Go out there, be nice to people. If you have any questions about anything that you can't figure out, ask somebody. 9 times out of 10, the guys out there are great guys, and they are polite, and they'll help you out. Especially when it comes to throwing out that anchor rod. That is key, because wherever way you're facing, you want to fish, you want to get that anchor line straight on your target as possible. Because if you're facing this way and your line's going this way, and I come up and want to fish, now I have to fish, so just pay attention. Just big boy rules, okay? Now, if you're a big Billy badass and you don't care, go on out there, do your thing, and handle your business. 9 out of 10 guys out there are super polite, great guys. Even the guys that appear to be not friendly, they're just introverted. You got people from all walks of life out there. So just approach it like that, and remember, you are kind of going into other people's territory, even though it's not really their if you get what I'm saying. So if you have any questions about anything I did, feel free to post up in the comments, contact me. You can follow me on Instagram at Hunting Surfer. That's at hunting_surfer. Find me at www.huntingsurfer.com. And look forward to seeing you out there. And I'm out.